Endurance cyclist Emily Chappell, winner of the 2016 Transcontinental, a 24-hour mountain bike race in Scotland, and countless others, has covered most of the globe on two wheels. But cycling has opened up the world to her in a less literal way too.
So when I was, back in my career days, I'd sometimes meet people in cafes who were, serious cyclists wearing lycra, and they would talk about, the Galibier, the Tourmalet, and these were all just like magical names to me. I'd seen them in the Tour de France, and I didn't know how you would get there to ride up them, or, what it would be like, or if I could. It was a very vague, kind of inaccessible thing. And now I know them really well. Now I've been up the Tourmalet in all weathers, I've been up there in the snow, I've crossed the Galibier before it was open, and it's been this kind of big part of this big progressive opening up of the world to me that I've had since I started cycling.
I'm Chris from Canopy Stars, and this is A Life More Wild. Join Emily now on a ride from her new home in Kendall. She talks about sleeping in fields, shining a spotlight on the Women's Tour de France, and learning how to enjoy riding less than a few hundred miles.
So at the minute we're standing outside my house, my very new house, just on the edge of Kendall in the Lake District. And I've lived here for, I think it might be almost 3 weeks now, but it still feels very, very new. The house is still full of unpacked boxes, and I'm still getting to know the local roads and hills very much. And I'm really happy here already. So on every horizon in between the houses, I can see fells, and I can see hilltops, and I can sometimes even see roads that I'm going to cycle up. And the place is full of trees, there's birds everywhere. Really, really enjoying having all the birds around. From my desk, I can see the house next door. There's a drain pipe, and there's a couple of little sparrows who are building a nest above it. And I'm just, keeping an eye on them. So today I'm going to take you on one of my little loops that I do, if I've got a lunchtime free or an evening ride. I don't know the area super well yet. I've spent a lot of time here and I have done cycling in the area, but of course I'm not an expert. So this is, I think, quite a predictable route that a lot of people will do out of Kendall, just up to the nearby town of Staveley, which is about 5 or 6 miles away. So I think I'm best known for winning the Transcontinental race in 2016, and it's funny. I don't want to do myself down. I'm very, very proud of it, but I also find it quite strange that everybody is so interested in that, because it was just one of many, many, many things I've done on the bike and many ways in which I've been interested in cycling. And it was, although it's not by any means the most memorable or exciting thing I've done, it was amazing. It was 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks of just me on the bike on my own, travelling, being awake most of the time. I slept 4 hours a night, and taking myself to various, physical and emotional extremes. But also by that point, I knew what I was doing. I'd done a lot of long distance cycling, and I had a false start the year before where I'd entered the same race and not completed it. And I had, as much as anyone ever could, kind of figured it out. And I knew how to look after myself. And I knew how to do this riding across a continent thing. My memories from the inside of experience are great. And then also, yes, I find it weird that people are so interested in it. But obviously I'm quite proud. I won the Transcontinental, and it's nice to be able to say that. And it was nice to be congratulated on it and to feel like someone like me, who was not always athletic, had just undeniably won a major race, and I felt, proved myself. These days I'm doing a lot less long distance cycling because I had long COVID for a few years, and so that really stopped, I think, my ultra distance career, such as it was. And I've had to relearn, how to go for bike rides, because for a long time I could still ride, but I couldn't go out and absolutely smash it or stay out all day. So I had to really do a lot of work to sort of refocus my relationship with it and think, well, what are all the other things I get out of cycling? You know, it's exploration, it's seeing the countryside and getting to know the world around you, and seeing different roads on different days, or the same roads on different days, and seeing how they change and all of that. And it's, we all talk about headspace and how much it does for your happiness, your mental health and all of that. And that's, it doesn't even feel like much. If you just go and turn your legs around for an hour and a half, I used to think it doesn't even seem worth it, really. I mean, what's the point if I'm not smashing it? But it really does make a difference. The rest of the day is different if you've been out on your bike even for a little while. Right, so we're gonna get on the bikes now, and we've got a little bit of cycling out of town to do. It's probably going to take us 4.5 minutes, I would say, along a main road. And when I say a main road, I don't mean Lower Thames Street. It's going to be pretty quiet, pretty chilled. And then we turn left onto a country lane. And after that, we're not really going to see very much traffic, and we'll just have fields, blossoming hedgerows, birds, and there's definitely a little mouse who's going to cross our path, because she has crossed my path every single ride I've done out here so far, so we might see her as well. I sometimes feel kind of lightly confused by the fact that I'm still somehow known for winning races when I only did that a few times for a short while. And I think about, so what does cycling mean to me? What is it that what sort of cyclist am I? What role does it play in my life? And one of the things is, it's a way of getting to know the world really well, in great detail. Be that, these new lanes in a place I've just moved to, or the hairpins of the Galibier. Stay. So we've just pulled over, we're sitting on a little bench beside this lane, which is really lovely, actually. I've never stopped here before, I've just seen it. I came past yesterday evening, there were a couple of people sitting here, and I thought, that seems like a nice place to stop. And it's clearly a bench that has been built in memory of someone called John Bainbridge. There's a little plaque for him. He looks like he passed away in 2001. And it's a nice, solid little stone bench that's built out of the wall, and a perfect place to just sit and have a look at things. Here we are on this beautiful country lane with no traffic for at least the last 5 minutes, and hillsides and fields all around us. But I fell in love with cycling in London, and I didn't even really cycle outside London for years. So it was just after I finished university, and I was a bit lost. I didn't have a good job or anything. I didn't have friends properly. I was really finding my feet, and I was a bit sad. And cycling just, I think, came along at the right moment. The joy of commuting by bike. So it wakes you up in the morning, and by the time you get to work, you're alert and happy and feeling positive and really annoying all your colleagues. And then in the evening, it just provides this lovely, you decompress from the day, you leave it all behind. And in my case, it was, I think, a couple of weeks after I started, the clocks changed. And I really remember that, because all of a sudden, I had an extra hour of daylight in the evening, and it really felt like suddenly the world opened up. So rather than just riding home, I'd just go and ride around London and explore all these places. And I remember I used to something I did was I would just launch myself in a particular direction and ride until I didn't know where I was. And then I would turn around and just try to navigate my way back until I was in a place I recognised and could find my way home. And I wasn't really learning very precisely where everything was and how to get everywhere, but it was fun and interesting. And I'd found the city very daunting to start with. I mean, I grew up in the country and I'd lived in a small market town for university. So London was too much. I mean, I still think London is a bit too much for most people. But suddenly on a bike, I could navigate it and I could understand it. And I did start to learn how it all fitted together. And all these complicated journeys I'd been doing by tube, I realised, oh, you can just ride from there to there. It's really easy. You just get on your bike and go wherever you want. And you don't have to wait for the bus or wait for the train or, you know, getting home from friends' houses late at night. I spent so many evenings, you know, somewhere like Fulham or Putney, waiting for a train that took 15 minutes to come, and then you're on it, and you've got to walk home, and you're tired and maybe a bit drunk. But actually with the bike, you just get on the bike and go, and then you wake up because the fresh air and the pedalling revive you. So it was this immediate, wonderful addition to my life, and I was instantly happy and I was instantly really into it. And my first big ride, I think, was about a month in, if that. And I rode with a group who are now called the Fridays. They used to do a thing called the Friday Night Ride to the Coast. And yeah, we met at Hyde Park Corner at midnight and we rode to Brighton for breakfast. It was so good. It was, I had thought, like, I don't know if I can do this and it'll be scary and it's a long ride. And also, what if I fall asleep? And what I hadn't realised is that as soon as you get going, you're awake. The fresh air, the movement of the pedals, and riding through the night is lovely. You've got the whole world to yourself. It's magical. And then we arrived, you know, we got up Ditchling Beacon, which is a big hill, and we arrived at sunrise. And what a thing to do. And for someone who at that point did not feel capable, did not feel confident, had not physically explored the world or even her own body, this was just mind-blowing and groundbreaking. And this really was like the beginning of how I was going to spend my adult life. Oh yeah, I think just straight up here. Lovely old barns. This Queen of the Meadow is lovely. It's down south. It would be out a lot earlier, and it reminds me of. I think it was actually the first year, maybe the second year I was cycling. I spent a weekend once, I think, riding north out of London and just riding through beautiful, beautiful countryside, like in late May with all the blossoms out and the meadow flowers and all of that. And I spoke to my father that evening and just enthused about it. And he said, "You do realise that's why we called you Emily May?" Because May is my second name. Because it's the most beautiful month of the year. And, you know, you were our first daughter and we wanted to name you after something we really loved. And I'd always hated my middle name because I was born in March. So, you know, parents couldn't even get the month right. And I suddenly understood and I suddenly got it. And now whenever I ride in May, it makes me really happy. I think this is me. I was named after this. This is something my parents really loved and decided to commemorate in my name. Right, so let's leave the bikes for a bit. If we go up here, I think we might get a bit of a view from the top where the footpath starts. So I originally got into the Tour de France, I don't even know when. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I've always been into it because my family watched it when I was young and still do. We're all obsessed with it. And so in the 1980s at some point, and just that whole, you know, it's part of the folklore of my family. And I can remember where I was when, I don't know, Contador and Schleck were going up the Tourmalet and Philippa York was winning on Col de la Barnette. And then alongside that now, there is this sort of ghost folklore of there were women doing it too and no one told me. So when I find this all out in long hindsight, when I got into cycling in 2006, when I was riding to Brighton, pretty much that same month, a woman my age from Wales, Nicole Cook, won the Tour de France, or the Grand Boucle Féminine as it was then. And she famously, but not famously enough, launched a massive breakaway on Mont Ventoux. She was already in yellow. She didn't need to, but she broke away and stayed away for the rest of the stage. And it was this iconic ride, and there is like one photo of it. And no one told me. I didn't know. I feel guilty for not knowing that, like, there literally was a women's Tour de France and people my age were racing in it. And there I was fantasizing about, imagine if I was a man and I could ride in the Tour de France. And we didn't know. And then many years later, I was on a tour through Canada. And just by chance, I met a woman called Denise Kelly, who lives now in a small town in central British Columbia. And someone introduced her to me because I was cycling and she had recently retired as the coach of the Canadian cycle team. And we got on well. And she said, yeah, I used to race. I raced in the Tour de France in the 1980s. And honestly, I almost fell off my chair because she was in the Tour de France when it was actually a women's Tour de France. And she was racing, on the same roads as Laurent Fignon. And, had photos of him. They were there. The women were racing on the same day as the men. And we went out the next day and, had a beer. And she showed me all her old photos and her memorabilia. And honestly, I feel very emotional when I think about this too much. Because it was happening and no one told me. I was a little girl in mid Wales, sometimes going for bike rides. And I had a full fantasy about, I will ride in the Tour de France when I grow up. I will have to pretend to be a man. I will call myself Emile Chappell. Nobody will guess. I'll have a little moustache. I had some vague idea that I would sort of, if I had breasts by then, I would kind of flatten them or something. I didn't know. And I mean, it wasn't a serious ambition, but it was a dream. It was a fantasy. But alongside that fantasy was, but obviously not. But it's not possible. But it couldn't ever happen. This is a dream in an alternate universe. And if someone had told me that Denise and, her friends and her teammates and her rivals were literally racing on the same roads throughout those years, I would have thought about them. I would have thought, I can become like that when I grow up. And I might actually have then found a way to get into racing. I might have raced against Nicole Cook. I mean, let's be fair, I probably would not have. But, I would have seen a direct path. It would have made my life different. It might have made my career drastically different. And, no one even told me. I didn't know. The media ignored it. That in itself shocks me. And then the Women's Tour de France disappeared for many years. But then it came back. And, I'm getting carried away now, but... So the first year of the modern Women's Tour de France, it was 2022, and I managed to convince Canyon, who are a bike manufacturer, to make a film about the first Women's Tour de France. They were sponsoring a team in the race, and Denise and an old teammate of hers, Marilyn, and I rode some of the stages and followed the race, and were there at the finish on the top of the Planche des Belles Filles, and were there on the Champs-Élysées in Paris when it started. And honestly, it was, magical is probably the wrong word, but it was one of those experiences. And I think the finest moment was the very first day we were in Paris, and they were leaving Paris a few hours before the men arrived, finishing their race. And the streets were full, and we were standing by the barriers, me and Denise and Marilyn. And then all of a sudden they came past, and it was this, peloton, and it was women, and it was the Tour de France, and we all cried, maybe for slightly different reasons, but, this was it. It was happening, and everybody was watching, and it was amazing. And now there's just a Women's Tour de France. It's been going for 4 years now, and there are going to be, I've got nieces. I don't know if they care about cycling, but if they want to, they can just watch the Women's Tour de France. it just exists. There are going to be people now who don't realise that there wasn't one, because it exists and it should, and there it is. Right, let's just head up and get on the road again, I think. Right, so we're finally crossing the river that we've been following for a little while, and this river goes further up the valley there, but runs all the way down to Kendall there. Gets a lot bigger as it goes. So this is Staveley, end of the journey, and we're here beside the River Kent, which runs back down to Kendall, where we'll be going shortly, and nice place to stop for a cup of tea and an ice cream. It's a good place to finish a ride. I said before, one of my motivations in cycling is curiosity, and is seeing things and finding things and learning things and, making little discoveries. And it's something I've noticed even back in the day when I was just riding around London. If you're going to the same places again and again, you find little things like a certain branch of a tree that's gradually changing colour every day of October, or, an empty flower bed in a park that gradually in spring you see the green shoots, and then you see the flowers come up. And on my longer rides, certain times of day, the light is different. Trees behave differently. You see the world change. You find little things in it. And yeah, honestly, I don't even think I need to go a long way now. There's always going to be so many little things to discover. There's something I've noticed, particularly on my longer rides, like if I go out and spend all day on the bike, but also on my shorter rides. And it's quite a cheesy thing, really, but on the long rides I do, it just makes me happy. It always makes me happy. Almost always. A bike ride, and now I realise I'm doing shorter, easier bike rides, that does too. It's my most reliable route to happiness, and I've been doing it for years now, and really every single bike ride it makes me happier than I was before I left. And I just think, how lucky to have that. How lucky to have a button you can press that makes you happier. Like, a lot of people spend many years looking for that, and I found it.
Depending on your level of cycling ability, that would have left you feeling anywhere from desperate to clip into your ceramic Keo blades to wobbly with the mere thought of all that pedalling. The good news is that anything from inching away up Mont Ventoux to a gentle country trundle is worth doing. It's no problem if you can't keep up with Emily. There aren't many who can. We'll be back soon with another great guest, and in the meantime, keep an ear out for part 2 of our Soundscape series, coming soon from a stream in the South Downs. Please remember to rate and review A Life More Wild wherever you get your podcast to. It really does help.